spot. Kennedys are uncommon men. We are men.
You got a
Of
double
different class.
yeah, that's right.
We are men cut from a different cloth. Griffin, let me finish. The Kennedys.
Okay.
We do one thing better than anyone else, and that's getting down and dirty, sonny. Jack came in when the Kennedys came
I'll
out.
let you
know
finish.
what I'm talking about.
Sorry.
And I may be in my 7th decade on planet Earth, but you can bet your ass, buddy, my shaft is getting worked. All right.
It is getting clean.
That's actually the topic of today's episode, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it is. It's the topic of the moment. We want to thank RFK for being the only topic that we really need to cover since we started the podcast. Let's get right into it with our lead story of the day here. So we've got RFK Jr., who May Sue Olivia Nuzzi. Olivia Nuzzi, after writer bombarded, oh my God, the ads, New York Post, we love you, but the ads. After writer bombarded
only reliable source in news media, by the way. If you're going to read anywhere, read the New York Post. I only trust the Murdoch family name.
So, bombarded him with increasingly pornographic pics and videos. So, I mean, folks, what do we know about Olivia Nuzzi so far? We know that she was a writer. But she's been suspended from NY Mag. She's 31 years old, and she's been sexting, sending those pics, pics.
I also heard she left her husband, who was 30 years, or no, sorry, her fiance, left his previous marriage with an older woman to be with Olivia Nuzzi, who was 20 years younger. And then she immediately turns around and starts seemingly sexting RFK, who's like 40 years older than her.
Well, what's crazy about Olivia Nuzzi is she's got game, everybody, and I respect her. Honestly, out of everybody I've ever come across in the entire media, I think I could relate to Olivia Nuzzi. That's a lady that saw what she wanted. She kept her eye on the prize, and she knew how to get there. And do you know what? Do you know what?
Rotting, decayed prize.
I'm a feminist.
Oh, okay.
I believe that women should be just as down and dirty as the dogs are. You know what I mean? I believe that you should step, not only should you climb the ladder, but you should cut other people down. Not only should you rise to the top, but you should step on a few other people who are unsuspecting along the way. And we should not forget Olivia Nuzzi. She learned from the best, everybody. When it comes to sexting, there's only one name in American politics that everybody knows, and that's the Wiener name.
Kamala Harris.
Anthony
Weiner. Sorry.
This lady dropped out of college to take a job at the Daily Beast after interning with Anthony Weiner, the sexting king of Congress.
She learned from the best.
And she learned from the best. She said, do you know what? Do you know how you climb the mountain in American politics? Do you know how you stay relevant in media scandals? Being at the epicenter of things that people are curious about.
That's
She continued throughout her career to manufacture those things. That's what she's doing right now. Everybody knows the Olivia Nuzzi name, and I'm proud of her. That's a step forward for America.
I actually agree, bro. Because apparently this is a very big name in news, a big name in journalism, big name in DC. Here in Kansas City, not so much. I didn't know who Olivia Nuzzi was. I might have read a few of her pieces before. Apparently she's an impressive writer, but I didn't know who the hell this was until now. I certainly do now, though.
So Olivia Nuzzi,
Kevin's hoping that she writes an op-ed about him next.
So Olivia Nuzzi
on a hike.
I'll take you on a filthy car ride to just a dead animal somewhere. That sounds like a nice date. But the thing is, she started with Anthony Weiner, and then she went viral for blog posts in like 2013 talking about her being inside the scandal, and then instantly spilling the tea. She's been a tea spiller since day one.
From the same cloth as the Vanguard. Let's go. We love tea here.
It's like a shark has to swim. I'm sorry, folks. They have to swim. It's the law of the jungle. But so she goes, and then she goes from there, and the Daily Beast, boom, picks her up, and then she's out of college already. She's a hotshot. And basically, like, what she's been like doing ever since are these like, one-on-one intimate like exposés with like world leaders that are like drivel, that are just like terrible fucking articles. But what was always funny to me about her was like she would write one of these articles, and then every soy boy, like journalist, reporter on Twitter would be like, amazing, ma'am. Another hit piece, m'lady.
That's how people who went to Georgetown flirt, Griffin. You should know they're all your neighbors now up in Brooklyn.
That's right.
You know, this is what they do. Hi, ma'am. Excuse me. Would you please, if I cut you in on my inheritance, let me take your panties down for a moment, ma'am, and just start to get a nosebleed.
Just one JPEG.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that she had like a tradition of doing these sort of profiles, Griffin. Do you think this is just her modus operandi? What happened here with Mr. Kennedy? You know, not to be distasteful, but do you think this was kind of the way
Let's taste it. Let's taste the rainbow.
Shame
Skittles.
on you. Shame on you. Shame on you, Gavin. I'll tell you what. Just a woman finds an ounce of success in this country, and you want to blame it on her bosom. Shame on you.
Excuse me.
Shame on you.
It was a little more than 1 ounces. Okay, it was.
But listen, we got. I'm glad you asked, Gavin, if she has done this in the past, because actually my girlfriend, who I'm in a loving, non-cheating relationship with, did some digging, and she looked at Olivia Nuzzi's Instagram and some of her interviews with other high-profile men. And so what I want to show you guys now and show everyone now is live and direct some of the Olivia Rizzi right here.
Ooh. Yeah, the Olivia no lies, just the straight chizzy.
Just the straight Rizza.
I think of you as like another species.
We'll do it again.
Sort of like a Martian to me. I think of you as like another
Who's this, Elon
species.
Musk?
That was Mark Cuban.
My kids think the same thing
Really? Why did they think it?
because they're teenagers.
No wonder he's in such a good mood. Now we know why.
Well, if we're in agreement, maybe it's true then. What does it feel like when you win?
I mean, it feels good, but it means I'm just on to the next thing.
Do you ever
God, I'm so hard right now. Sorry, everyone. NSFW, if you're at home right now.
feel satisfied?
Griffin's
Yeah, I feel
America's
satisfied
horniest
'cause I know-
broadcaster.
I know I'm learning. I love to learn, right? And I know I'm still competing. You know, when I first started, I was the youngest guy in the room, you know, and people were like, are you too young, whatever. Now I'm the oldest guy walking in the room. I'm like, well, what's this guy know about
Oldest guy walking in the room, Olivia is sopping.
technology? Or AI? Why are you trying to compete with all these big companies? They're going to kick your ass. I'm like, let's go. You know, that's motivating to me.
He's sort of the type of person that I understand least in the world. His whole life is about competition and beating the competition, and he said that he
She's not
wakes up
smart.
thinking about the
I'm
competition.
sorry, but
and
we
I think
can't keep
that's
up that
actually
charade for very
Yeah.
long. Wow. Man, you know what? I love what tenacity will get you in this world, because this woman didn't have brains for
beautiful.
shit.
It's beautiful. She's
I mean, she's probably just pretending to be dumb.
That's
yeah,
true.
exactly.
Gavin, reinstate Gavin's feminist laurels. This man came in with a pile driver.
Yes.
Shame on me.
Let's go. Fuck you, Zach.
The
All right.
yassification of Gavin.
The man.
Yeah. So were any of her interviews actually substantive, or was it all that kind of softball garbage?
That was pretty substantive, Gavin. She asked about she like wrote competition on her little notepad and like circled it 100 times and was like, yeah, he's really competitive. I mean, listen, that was a master at work. Okay. There are women out there that just know how to control rich, powerful, old men. And why is anybody shaming her for that? This to
That's
me.
what I was asking.
Exactly.
I don't care that she's not bright. I don't care that she's probably not the crispiest wonton on the poo-poo platter. Not here to judge. I'm interested in results, and that lady has shown nothing but results. My media career can't hold a candle to that. They're not writing about me in the New York Post, okay?
Yeah.
So maybe I need to start
Sucking
you
and
know,
fucking.
taking some of her advice. You know what I mean?
Sucking
Maybe I need to
RFK's cock,
find a presidential candidate that that wants a little bit of the Zach attack. You know what I'm saying? You know, wants a
Jill Stein. You know what I'm saying?
Vivek Ramaswamy, here's my asshole. So how did this get out? How did this leak? How did all of this, heard through the grapevine, come to the front page? Well, folks,
there's a lot of rumors about that. There's a lot of rumors about that. I have been slandered not once, but twice. Not 3 times, but 4 times in this very own story. I'll let you finish, sir. It's injustice. The mainstream media, they don't care about facts. They're supposed to be the ones you can trust, but you can't trust them. You can only trust the Kennedy name. And Donald Trump and myself are here to restore health and wealth and prosperity to this
That's
country.
right. That's right. Thank you, RFK. Thank you. But unfortunately, RFK, you did boast about your nude pics to your friends. That's how this got out. It didn't get out from a hack. No Russian hackers here. Just stinky old guy showing other people her nudes. And you know,
Yeah,
how do we feel about
somebody
that?
on my close friends list pulled the old Taylor Lorenz action. I have solidarity with that woman. I can't describe now because the code of brotherhood was violated when I came after my conquest. I'd gotten some weekend pussy. I tried to tell the fellas about it, and they all looked at me like it's not 1969 anymore. I just couldn't understand it.
I mean, for me, it's like, you know, I think if you're age 15 to like 60, you probably shouldn't brag about nudes. It's just lame to do. But if you're like 70 fucking 1 and a 30-year-old is sending you nudes, I think you can brag. I think you can brag a little bit about that. I think that's pretty
check it out.
that's pretty unusual, right? That's not a normal thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'd love to just know more details about this because obviously RFK is basically accusing her of like, inappropriately,
Yes.
and almost like non-consensually sending these nudes, which I
It was an
don't
attack.
believe. I mean, let's be honest. RFK's been a sex addict his entire life. I don't think that he was
He's
like
been
being
a-
taken advantage of
he's
by
been
this
a victim.
30-year-old reporter.
He's been a victim his
But-
whole life of sexual attacks by women.
Yeah, but that is the only reason it would make sense, not for him to brag about it, but for him to just be talking about it in public in the first place. Because if you really were, if you're running for president, some, high profile journalist, if they were actually sending you that kind of explicit content, you might bring it up and be like, yo, like, can you believe this is happening? Again, if that was a normal candidate, I don't believe for a second that RFK Jr. Wasn't reciprocating
Right.
the attention in some way, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, let me give you the play-by-play,
No,
or you can explain
there's
it.
A legal apparatus right now working around the clock to ensure that those messages are never revealed because of the trauma it would inflict on my family.
That's right.
Those messages that do not exist will never be seen by the public.
So what
I'm
happened
a
is
loving
that
family
okay.
man. I would never do that to Cheryl.
Well, the thing
I learned my lesson after I cheated on my wife 44 times, and then she. God, it looks like,
what happened? What happened to your
Oh
camera?
my God, RFK.
Did you switch
RFK, He
cameras?
left the studio. Oh my
Gavin left.
goodness.
Can I do this fucking story now, RFK? You're stonewalling us. So
That was
RFK is claiming he's a victim in this story. Okay, RFK is a victim in this story because apparently he blocked her multiple times. He blocked her multiple times, and every time he unblocked her, she would send more nudes. Guys, just a tip, hot tip for you guys, for those out there looking for some news. But so basically, going on in this story here, Kennedy has hired a security expert. He's hired a security expert to look into this.
Is that Gavin DeBecker, right?
Yes, because that's what you do.
We talked about him before. Remember one of his
Yeah.
top donors also?
Yes. So Kennedy 70 has hired
a
security
trusted man
expert.
the Kennedy family condones.
He's hired security expert Gavin DeBecker to probe the saga because he's allegedly pursuing civil and potentially criminal litigation against a 31-year-old star political reporter. This has nothing to do with romance, DeBecker said of the sordid saga. He was being chased by porn.
That sounds like a fucking like a Hitchcock movie that's
Yes.
set in the modern era, chased by you know what I'm saying, like The Birds, but it's
I think it
just a
stars
bunch
Joseph
of
Gordon-Levitt.
it's just a bunch of MP4s of like porn flying down out of the sky or something. Like what the fuck? What kind of way to describe sexual harassment online is that? Even if it's genuinely true that RFK Jr. was being like harassed, what kind of fucking way to describe it? Like he was being chased by porn.
It's like
What?
it's like the shot from The Shining where it's coming through the bathroom door, but it's just fucking nudes.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
a child running away from a shot at the doctor's office, but it's a heroin addict in his plug.
Yeah.
And it happens. It happens to everyone. Powerful men can be sexual assault victims as well, and this does seem like a clear-cut case.
RFK got Terry Cruzed.
But so I mean, there's a lot going on here. I mean, did you guys hear that? What's going on in RFK's phone contacts? How he had over 43 mistresses in his cell phone, but they were all labeled G at the start to symbolize the Italian word gumar.
What is Gumar? What the fuck?
Gumar, like they use it all the time in The Sopranos. It's like what they call the side chicks. They'll call him your Gumar. Oh, go off and fuck your Gumar. You'll learn all kinds of fun Italian slang if you finally watch The Sopranos. But
taking
anyway,
your leftist card back. You're not allowed at the next DSA meeting until you've seen all of The Sopranos.
Yeah, you have to. I told him not only does he have to watch it once, he has to then turn around and watch it again.
But yeah, so I mean, he's a stinky guy. But
you ain't nothing but a hound dog.
But I thought
all the time.
I did think she's been suspended from the NY
caught
Mag.
47 rabbits, but you ain't no friend of mine. RFK, he's a real hound dog.
One time I met him and his shirt was really stained, and I've always been thinking about what that stain was from. Like, it really it could just be anything from the animal kingdom. Like, it was not mustard. This was
it was a yellow color. It was
a light pink stain. It was
he was probably
in.
He was probably nothing. He was preparing a traditional meal of haggis and blood sausage, and he just didn't have time to pamper himself because he's such a Kennedy down to earth man.
Yeah,
he had to just come in rugged.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about this story. Like, RFK has been described by himself as a sex addict, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's that diary he supposedly wrote back in the day when he was in prison somewhere, and he was like, I'm finally happy because there's no women around me, so I can't lust after them. Right, because he was in an all-male prison. He was like, "This is when I realized I'm a sex addict."
RFK being transphobic once again. I'm sure there was plenty of women in that jail.
And I feel like sex addiction. It's often not taken seriously because it's like, oh, sorry, you're drowning in pussy. Like you just can't control yourself.
What's it like to be a rich white guy?
Yeah, most people are like, oh, I wish I had that problem, right? And I think it's also unfortunate when it comes to these high-profile celebrities, people like RFK. Another one that comes to mind is Russell Brand, who's talked about sex addiction, where it's like a lot of times I feel like the people who talk the most about being sex addicts are also the ones that like to bring that up to kind of distract from the fact that they have a bunch of sexual assault allegations or sexual impropriety allegations. So then a lot of people just sort of think that like, oh, you're not actually addicted, you're not actually suffering from addiction, you're just using this condition as an excuse to basically rape people and be a total piece of shit. But I am interested in your guys' opinion of where someone like RFK falls on that spectrum. Do you think there really is a condition that's afflicting this guy, an addictive sort of condition? And to what extent?
Wait, are you asking if sex addicts exist or if he's a sex addict?
I mean, well, kind of both. I mean, obviously I know they exist, but like to what extent do you take
yes
it
and yes.
seriously? Because
yes
I mean,
yes
if you're an
yes.
alcoholic and someone starts like being like, hey, here's a shot, here's a bottle of vodka, like you'd be like, fuck that person. But obviously you wouldn't say that about someone sending nudes to a sex addict, because that, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's weird.
Me say this about the sexual assault. That nanny was a whore. That nanny was a whore, and she was a lying whore.
She didn't even get a G in the phone. She got a W.
And this was not there. Let's just say me and fellas like me, we all learned from Arnold. Okay, Google that if you don't know. But what I have to say about sex addiction is that it's a very real and painful process that has afflicted the Kennedy men, much like bullets from their own government.
I think it's more complicated scientifically. I think he's addicted to dead animals, and that gives off a pheromone to women that is then attracting them. But everyone is entitled to their own theory and their own ideas of what sex addicts are. I do think that if you are born like that famous or whatever. It's you kind of like already like famous people are aliens, celebrities are aliens. They have such a distinctly different experience from the rest of humanity that they're gonna be fucking weird aliens and get away with because they can get away with everything and they're given everything. But I wanted to highlight a very specific defense coming from Olivia's people. You know, a lot of Olivia's coworkers have been silent, but thankfully Ben Smith here at the Semaphore came out with and I'll read this if you guys can't read it on stream, but an incredible defense of Olivia here. I just wanted to read a little excerpt here from Ben Smith at Semaphore. He says, but now that we are in the full fury of American media prurience and self-righteousness, I'm going to risk my neck on a slightly contrarian view. Yes, risk it. Reporters have all sorts of compromising relationships with sources. The most compromising of all, and the most common, is a reporter's fealty to someone who gives them information. That's the real coin of this realm. Sex barely rates. You won't hear many American journalists reckon with this. Some British journalists, naturally, have been texting us to ask what the fuss is about. If you're not sleeping with someone in a position of power, how are you even a journalist? The advice writer Heather Harvalitsky texted me Saturday that the world would be much more exciting with more Nuzzies around. But alas, the world is inhabited by anonymously emailing moralists instead. Let's
give a round of applause for Ben Smith.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. I will say, though, for Olivia to make good on this, she has to release a tell-all book where she actually spills the tea.
Pre-order.
Like, if you're going to do the investigative reporting,
100%.
then you have to share the fruits of your labor. You can't just keep that a secret, or else it was just a
100%.
personal, thing. But let us know. Spill the tea. We want every detail. We want to know every disgusting facet of this man's private life,
the size,
his physical
the
appearance.
girth. Yeah.
Tell us what he asks you to eat out of his asshole. I want to know. We want to know it all. There's no shame. Be specific. This man is a Kennedy, and the people will gobble it up just like you did.
Exactly. We want you to hit the nose to the grindstone in this book, Olivia, because we're gonna be there at Barnes and Nobles midnight, pre-ordered. But
and that might be her only path left career-wise, because I don't think the serious journalistic institutions are going to be all that excited to welcome her back into the fold, considering her transgressions ethically. But that might be the best lane. What do you think? Do you think she has a future in professional?
I see her now. Watch me. I'm pointing to the
Olivia.
I'm Barry Bondsing this one.
Television. She's gonna get a job on TV. Dog.
No, I'm Barry Bondsing this one. She's gonna be on Talk Tua next week, the Hawk Tua podcast, and then she's gonna be right back to it. I think this is we're in a sex positive arena again. Okay, and so I think it's a bright new start for her. I really do.
I think she's going to be sitting across from Cuomo on News Nation in about 10 weeks, and I think that she's going to be the new rising star, and they're gonna really boost her. I think this is her Hawk Tua moment. I think you're mixing the signals though. I think you're mixing the signals in her Hawk Tua moment. Now she is getting a springboard to the next level.
Well, she needs to come out and clear up, what exactly happened before any of that, because right now RFK is the one that has the last word.
Yeah.
He's accusing her of sexual harassment. So she does need to come out here and be that's not true, because now she's kind of letting herself look like the villain of this story, which is ridiculous because, again, if you actually look at the context and who RFK is, it's pretty clear that it's very likely the other way around, or they're both equally guilty. I don't really, care, like in a moral sense, about this sort of extramarital sort of affair, but there is proof that RFK Jr. has been just straight up mentally abusive to women. So I'm like, I'm not going to give this fucking guy